In this video you are going to watch the recap of Valkyrie starring Tom Cruise, a 2008 historical war thriller directed by Bryan Singer. So let's get started. In the first scene of Valkyrie, Colonel Stauffenberg is shown writing in a journal while deployed in Tunisia, North Africa in 1943 about his views on World War II and how he believes Hitler is destroying Germany. Stauffenberg claims that despite swearing allegiance to Hitler, he has a great obligation to Germany. He debates with a commander about trying in vain to keep an insignificant city against the American and British forces. The general consents to moving the 10th Panther Division to a new place so they can be rescued and sent back to continental Europe shortly after British planes assault the camp, severely wounding Stauffenberg and causing him to lose one of his eyes, right hand, and 2 fingers on his left hand. The next scene features a tense General Tresco watching as Hitler visits a base camp on the Eastern European front. While Hitler gets ready to depart on flight, Tresco along with an assistant conceals a bomb in a wine case and hands it over to a person aboard Hitler's plane, but the bomb fails to detonate during flight. Now Tresco has to fall back to the headquarters to retrieve it safely. He meets General Ulbricht, a fellow conspirator, upon his arrival. Tresco successfully recovers the wine case and discusses with Ulbricht about a recently detained secret committee member. Ulbricht contacts Colonel Stauffenberg on Tresco's advice to fill the position. Ulbricht invites Stauffenberg to one of their covert meetings where he meets 3 significant resistance leaders: Dr. Gordler, who will become Chancellor of Germany if the conspiracy succeeds, General Beck, who will command the armed forces, and Witzleben. After arguments over what to do following the plot cause a rift at a later meeting, Stauffenberg advises that they undertake Operation Valkyrie, a contingency plan for maintaining law and order among Germans in case Hitler is killed or communication from him is blacked out. He modifies its directive to prevent the SS from seizing power and leaving General from commander of the Army Reserve in charge of Germany. When approached by Stauffenberg and Ulbricht, General from denies them but remains silent instead of exposing them to authorities. In the interim period, General Tresco is deployed to front lines. The task is assigned to Stauffenberg, who takes the order to Berghof for approval by Hitler. Accompanied by his aide Lieutenant Heften, Hitler praises Stauffenberg's battle wounds from the North African campaign as the ideal attitude required for a German officer in front of his inner circle. The draft is subsequently approved after assuming that the amendments are sufficient. Colonel Kornheim demonstrates how to use pencil detonators to the rebels. Upon returning to command, Stauffenberg convinces General Feldjebel, in charge of communication at Wolf's Lair, to assist with their strategy. Since Stauffenberg has been appointed as Chief of Staff for General Fromm, he has access to Hitler's military debriefings and will attend a military conference with Heften at Hitler's bunker Wolf's Lair. Their plan is simple: after setting off one of the pencil detonators during the meeting, Feldjebel will call and claim to be a general, polling them both to wait with a car outside while theoretically giving them 6 minutes before the bomb goes off. This should give them enough time to get there and take off before anyone suspects anything. However, there's one prerequisite set forth by leaders of their dissident group: Hitler and Himmler must be present for Stauffenberg to arm the bomb. When he arrives at Wolf's Lair fully prepared but realizes Himmler's absence, he phones his committee seeking guidance on what action they should take next. Despite being ordered by the committee to abort, Ulbricht proceeds and calls up the Army Reserve. The Army Reserve, thinking it was a training exercise, is given an order to stand down while Stauffenberg safely removes himself and the bomb from the bunker. General Fromm is furious that Ulbricht and Stauffenberg deployed the army without his consent or knowledge and orders them to report to him immediately. He warns them that if this happens again, he will arrest both of them. The SS has issued a warrant for Dr. Gordler's arrest, prompting General Beck to urge him to leave the country. This gives Stauffenberg complete control over how to proceed with their endeavor after Gordler abruptly leaves in his home. Colonel Stauffenberg informs his wife of his plan and orders her to flee with their children if he is unsuccessful in his attempt on Hitler's life on July 20, 1944. Fearing capture and torture by Nazis, they comply. During Hitler's subsequent military briefing on July 20, 1944 at a summer house with an open window instead of his bunker where pressure would have read back to the bomb's origin, making it more lethal, Stauffenberg launches another attempt on Hitler's life but realizes Himmler is absent once again. Although declined permission by the committee when contacting them about proceeding further with their plan, Kornheim quietly decides along with Stauffenberg, who enters into the summer house as Heften gets ready in their car. Heften and he armed a bomb in a bathroom, planted it under the war room table. Stauffenberg rushed out of the hut after Feldjebel gave him a diversionary phone call. A furious Hitler struck the table in the war room upon learning of Germany's defeats in Europe, spilling Stauffenberg's bag containing the armed bomb. When someone at the table noticed Stauffenberg's bag lying on the ground, they moved it behind Hitler's leg. The bomb went off as Stauffenberg made his way to his car. When Feldjebel called Kornheim, all that was heard was that the bomb had gone off, but Kornheim could not comprehend what had happened due to poor reception. Feldjebel instructed them to cut off all communication since he thought his task was finished. Albrecht begged Kornheim to call back and inquire whether or not Hitler was actually dead, but down phone lines made that impossible. In order to mobilize the army reserve, Albrecht must first receive confirmation that Hitler has been killed. He then departs for lunch behind Ulbricht's back while Kornheim issues orders for mobilization and Major Reimer starts deploying troops in Berlin. Stauffenberg successfully deceives guards into opening checkpoints for them as he, Heften and their driver hurriedly exit Wolfslair before returning to an airfield and taking off rapidly for Berlin's government district. Stauffenberg is shocked when he learns that an order could delay their endeavor significantly, but they continue with their strategy as planned by marching into General From's office telling him that Hitler is no longer alive and offering him a choice of joining their cause or being jailed. After communications were re-established, From dials Wolfslair only to learn that Hitler is still alive. In response, Stauffenberg asks which side From is on while attempting to detain Ulbricht and himself, leading From to find himself in custody as the commander of the Army Reserve for Operation Valkyrie. Stauffenberg, Ulbricht and Beck issue instructions to detain all SS and Gestapo officers and seize power in Berlin. Major Reimer complies with these requests without being aware that, contrary to what he believes, he is actually aiding the coup. 2 orders have been sent, one from Wolfslair during Stauffenberg's arrest, and another from Stauffenberg ordering the arrest of Minister Joseph Goebbels. As the Army Reserve draws near, Goebbels is seen placing a cyanide pill in his mouth before picking up the phone and requesting to be connected. When Reimer enters, Goebbels declares that he is already in custody but hands Reimer the phone. Hitler's voice can be heard on the other end commanding him to free all SS officers and apprehend conspiracy leaders while they are still alive. Reimer calls off occupation of Berlin and advances towards Stauffenberg, who dismisses claims that Hitler is still alive as assessed propaganda. As time passes, Stauffenberg's colleagues at the top either defect or run for their lives. In an effort to flee as the Army Reserve approaches headquarters, Stauffenberg, Heften, Kornheim, Ulbricht and Beck are met with resistance from loyalist soldiers, resulting in a brief shootout. General From is released from prison after all conspirators are apprehended. To appear innocent and save himself, he orders Albrecht, Heften, Kornheim and Stauffenberg to be executed but permits Beck to shoot himself. The remaining 4 are led outside and executed by firing squad in the Bendler block at midnight. After learning of the plot's failure, General Tresco uses a grenade to kill himself on the front lines following Gordler's hanging. Eventually taken before a firing squad, only Stauffenberg and Heften remain after Kornheim and Ulbricht were already put to death. As a final act of allegiance to his commander, Heften advances in front of Stauffenberg, taking the first rounds from the firing squad before dying. Stauffenberg shouts "Long live sacred Germany" before being shot by the firing squad at his trial. Witzelman loudly condemns Hitler, indicating that he too was put to death on September 4 of that same year. The movie then claims that General From's Red killings were ineffective since he was also executed on March 12, 1945 for failing to report conspirators. The movie ends with a byline stating that Hitler committed suicide in April 1945, 9 months later, while Stauffenberg's wife and children survived after the war. We hope you enjoyed this recap. If you want more content like this, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future movie recaps.